Welcome, fellow stargazer, to another gentle journey with the thoughtful astronomer. Whether you're here to drift among distant worlds, ponder the mysteries of space, or simply let your mind wander through the cosmos while sleep quietly beckons, you found your way to just the right place. Tonight, we're going to imagine something rather extraordinary. Picture stepping outside your door and looking up to see not one sun, but two golden orbs hanging in the sky like celestial siblings. What if Earth had two suns? What would our world look like? How would we live? How would life itself have evolved differently under the light of a binary star system? It's a slow, contemplative question that opens doorways to entire alternate realities. And I promise to keep things soothing and not too riveting, though if you do find yourself still awake by the time we explore alien sunsets and impossible seasons, well, at least you'll have some cosmic what-ifs to ponder as you drift toward sleep. Before we begin our celestial voyage, I'd be quietly grateful if you gave this video a gentle like. It helps other stargazers find their way to this peaceful corner of the universe. And if you'd like to join me for more thoughtful explorations among the stars, that subscribe button is always there, waiting patiently like a distant constellation. If you're feeling chatty before the cosmic lullaby takes hold, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. There's something wonderfully grounding about knowing that while we're all looking up at the same stars, we're scattered across time zones and continents, each under our own patch of sky. So settle in. Let the blankets wrap around you like the gentle embrace of space itself. Take a deep breath of this earthly air, and let's drift together into a world illuminated by twin stars, where everything we know about light, shadow, seasons, and time itself would be beautifully, impossibly different. Picture this: you wake up as you always do, but something feels different. There's more light streaming through your window than usual, but it's not the harsh glare of midday. It's the soft, lead illumination of early morning, except there are two sources casting gentle shadows in opposite directions across your room. You rise and move to the window, and there they are, two suns hanging in the eastern sky like a pair of golden lanterns. One slightly larger and more familiar, the other smaller but no less brilliant, each painting the world in its own warm hue. This is the morning of a world with binary stars, and everything you've ever known about sunrise, noon, and sunset has just become infinitely more complex. In our imagined Earth with two suns, dawn would never be a simple affair. Instead of that single, predictable arc of light creeping over the horizon, we might witness what astronomers call a complex dawn, a slow, led awakening where first one star rises, then the other, each adding its voice to the growing chorus of light. Sometimes both suns would rise together, creating a brilliance that would make our current summer mornings seem dim by comparison. Other times, they might rise hours apart, giving us a gentle first sunrise followed by a second, more dramatic awakening. The sky itself would become a canvas of shifting colors as the two stars, each potentially a different temperature and hue, blended their light across the atmosphere. And the shadows. Oh, the shadows would be magnificent. Instead of the single, predictable shadow that follows you around on a sunny day, you might cast two shadows, sometimes sharp and parallel, sometimes crossing over each other in an intricate dance. Children might grow up learning to tell time not by where the sun sits in the sky, but by the angle and convergence of their twin shadows. But this is just the beginning of how profoundly different our world would be. To understand the full scope of such a transformation, we need to step back and consider what it actually means to live under two stars, not just the pretty visuals, but the deep, fundamental changes to physics, climate, and the very rhythm of life itself. In a binary star system, Earth wouldn't simply be orbiting one star with another tagging along like a cosmic afterthought. The gravitational dynamics would be entirely different. Our planet might orbit both stars in a figure-8 pattern, or it might circle one star while both stars orbit each other, creating what astronomers call a circumbinary orbit. Each scenario would create its own unique patterns of light, heat, and seasonal change. If Earth followed a figure-8 orbit around both stars, we'd experience periods when we're closer to one sun than the other, creating seasons unlike anything we know. Imagine summers that arrive not because of our planet's tilt, but because we've swung closer to the more powerful of our two stellar companions. Or winters that might still be bright and warm because, while we've moved away from one star, we've drawn nearer to the other. The very concept of a year would become complex. Instead of our neat 365-day cycle around a single star, we might have multiple overlapping cycles, a shorter orbit around one star, a longer path around the other, and the gradual dance of the stars themselves as they orbit their common center of mass. Calendars would become three-dimensional puzzles, and farmers would need to understand not just the phases of the moon, but the intricate choreography of binary starlight. And speaking of the moon, our poor, faithful lunar companion would face its own challenges. The gravitational influence of two stars might make the moon's orbit less stable, perhaps causing it to wobble more dramatically or even, over geological time, to spiral away from Earth entirely. The tides, those gentle, predictable rhythms we've explored in other cosmic journeys, would become chaos, sometimes pulling in two directions at once, sometimes combining to create tidal ranges that would make the Bay of Fundy look modest. Even the length of our days might change. The complex gravitational interactions could cause Earth's rotation to speed up, slow down, or become irregular. We might have 20-hour days followed by 30-hour days, making the simple act of keeping time a cosmic adventure. But here's the thing that makes this thought experiment so fascinating: life has an extraordinary ability to adapt. If Earth had formed in a binary star system from the very beginning, life wouldn't see these conditions as strange or challenging. They would simply be normal. The rhythms of double sunrise, complex seasons, and shifting shadows would be as natural and comforting to the creatures of that world as our single sun is to us. So as we begin this journey into an alternate Earth, remember that we're not just changing the lighting. We're reimagining the fundamental rhythms that would have shaped every living thing, every ecosystem, every moment of every day for billions of years. It's a world where the very heartbeat of existence would pulse to the rhythm of twin stars. And in this gentle transformation of everything we think we know about our world, there's something deeply peaceful. The reminder that the universe is vast and full of possibilities, that the familiar patterns of our own planet are just one small arrangement among countless others, each beautiful in its own way. In a world lit by two suns, the very nature of light itself would become a symphony instead of a solo performance. Every surface, every leaf, every face would be painted not with the simple, directional illumination we know, but with a complex interplay of brightness and shade that would make artists weep with joy and photographers retire in bewilderment. Let's begin with the morning light streaming through your window. With two suns in the sky, you'd never experience the harsh, directional shadows that can make a single sun day feel stark or dramatic. Instead, the light would wrap around objects like a gentle embrace. One sun might illuminate the left side of your face while the other softly fills in the shadows on the right. The result would be a world without harsh contrasts, where everything exists in a bath of layered, nuanced light. But this wouldn't be a flat, shadowless world either. The interplay between the two light sources would create shadows that shift and dance throughout the day. Sometimes your twin shadows would stretch in opposite directions, creating a dramatic cross on the ground beneath you. Other times, when the suns drew close together in the sky, your shadows might overlap, creating a darker, more defined silhouette bordered by a lighter penumbra. Imagine walking through a forest on such a world. The leaves above would filter not one, but two streams of sunlight, creating a dappled canopy where every patch of light on the forest floor tells a story of stellar choreography. Some clearings might be brilliantly lit by both suns, while others exist in the soft twilight created when one sun is blocked but the other continues to shine. Trees themselves would grow differently, perhaps developing leaves that can track not just one moving light source, but two, creating forests that shimmer and shift throughout the day like living kaleidoscopes. The sky itself would be a canvas of wonder. Instead of the familiar blue dome punctuated by a single bright circle, we might see gradients of color that shift and blend as the two suns move through their celestial dance. When the stars are close together in the sky, their combined light might create colors and atmospheric effects we can barely imagine, perhaps brilliant bands of gold and rose that arch across the heavens, or moments when the sky appears to be lit from within by some gentle, cosmic fire. And oh, the sunsets! In our single-sun world, we treasure those moments when our star touches the horizon and paints the sky in shades of orange and red. But imagine a world where you might witness not one sunset, but two, sometimes together in a display of impossible beauty, sometimes hours apart, giving you a gentle evening twilight followed by a second, more dramatic finale. There could be evenings when one sun sets in the west while the other still hangs in the northern sky, creating a prolonged golden hour that stretches across the entire landscape. Or mornings when one sun rises in the east just as the other is setting in the west, creating a moment when the entire world is painted in the soft light of perpetual dawn. Seasons, too, would become exercises in complexity and beauty. Instead of the simple progression from the bright, high sun of summer to the low, weak light of winter, we might experience seasons of convergence and divergence. Times when both suns track similar paths across the sky, creating periods of brilliant warmth and light. Other times when the suns spread apart, one rising early and setting late while the other makes a brief, low journey across the southern horizon. There might be seasons when one sun dominates, creating weather patterns and temperatures similar to what we know, while the other provides a gentle background warmth. And there could be magical periods when the suns alternate their dominance, creating days that are bright and warm followed by days that are cooler but still beautifully illuminated, seasons that pulse like a slow, cosmic heartbeat. The concept of noon would require complete redefinition. Instead of that single moment when the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, we might have multiple peaks of brightness throughout the day. At first noon when one sun reaches its zenith, a period of maximum illumination when both suns are at their highest, and a second noon, hours later when the other star claims its moment of dominance. For the creatures of this world, the complex dance of light would shape not just their days, but their very evolution. Plants might develop leaves that can articulate in two directions, following first one sun, then the other throughout the day. Animals might evolve more sophisticated eyes, capable of processing the complex visual information that comes from multiple light sources casting overlapping shadows and reflections. Predators might hunt during the brief moments of true shadow, when both suns are blocked by clouds or mountains, while prey animals might evolve to take advantage of the fill-in lighting that makes it harder to hide. Migration patterns could be timed not to the simple north-south journey of our single sun, but to the complex celestial mechanics of when and where the two stars appear together or apart in the sky. And perhaps most beautifully, the people of such a world might develop an entirely different relationship with light itself. Instead of the binary thinking of day and night, light and dark, they might see gradations and layers, understanding that illumination comes not as a single gift from above, but as an ongoing conversation between celestial partners. In the gentle interplay of twin starlight, where shadows dance and brightness layers upon brightness, there would be a constant reminder that even the most fundamental aspects of existence, light, shadow, the passage of time, are far more nuanced and beautiful than we might first imagine. It's a world where every moment would be painted not with a single brush, but with the layered artistry of binary suns. In our world, seasons follow a comforting, predictable rhythm. Spring's gentle awakening, summer's abundant warmth, autumn's graceful farewell, and winter's quiet rest. It's a four-movement symphony that's played the same way for billions of years, timed to Earth's steady waltz around our single sun. But in a world with two stars, seasons would become something far more complex, not a simple symphony, but an entire cosmic orchestra, with movements that overlap, harmonize, and sometimes play entirely different melodies altogether. To understand how seasons might work under binary suns, we need to consider the gravitational choreography that would govern our alternate Earth's journey through space. If our planet orbited both stars in a figure-8 pattern, we'd experience seasons based not just on our distance from heat sources, but on our ever-changing relationship with two different stellar companions. Imagine periods when Earth swings close to the larger, more powerful sun while the smaller star watches from a distance. These might be our high summer seasons, times of intense warmth and brilliant light, when one sun dominates the sky and the world basks in temperatures that might make our current summers seem mild by comparison. During these periods, one sun would track high across the sky while its partner remains lower on the horizon, providing a gentle background warmth but leaving the heavy lifting of illumination to its more powerful companion. But then, as our orbit carries us away from the dominant star and toward its smaller partner, we might experience what we could call twilight seasons, periods when neither sun provides intense heat, but both contribute to a world lit by soft, layered light. These could be times of perpetual golden hour, when the temperature is moderate and the quality of light is something like a photographer's dream, warm, even, and impossibly beautiful. There might also be solar opposition seasons, when the two suns appear on opposite sides of Earth's sky. During these periods, one sun might rise just as the other sets, creating days that begin with sunrise in the east and end with a different sunset in the west. The tidal effects during these times would be extraordinary, with our oceans pulled in two directions by stars positioned like celestial bookends. But perhaps the most magical would be the conjunction seasons, those times when both suns appear close together in our sky, their combined light creating an illumination unlike anything in our single sun experience. These might be periods of intense brightness and warmth, when shadows are rare and the world exists in a bath of light that makes everything appear to glow from within. The length of these seasons wouldn't follow our neat 3-month cycles. Instead, they might last anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on the complex mechanics of a figure-8 orbit around binary stars. There could be years with 3 distinct seasons, others with 5 or 6, and some rare orbital periods where the entire year exists in a single, extended seasonal mood. For the life that evolved in such a world, these complex seasonal patterns would create opportunities and challenges we can barely imagine. Plants might develop multiple reproductive cycles, timing different phases of growth to different types of starlight. There could be flowers that bloom only during solar opposition, when the unique lighting conditions create the perfect environment for pollination. Others might wait for the intense brightness of conjunction seasons, using the combined energy of both suns to fuel rapid growth and seed production. Trees might develop seasonal strategies as complex as their orbital environment. Perhaps they'd grow different types of leaves for different seasons, broad, efficient collectors for the bright conjunction periods, and smaller, more specialized leaves for the gentler twilight seasons. Their very bark might change color and texture throughout the long orbital year, adapting to varying intensities and qualities of stellar radiation. Animal migration patterns would become 3-dimensional puzzles. Instead of the simple north-south movements we see on Earth, creatures might migrate to follow optimal combinations of temperature and light quality. There could be birds that time their journeys to arrive at their destinations just as the preferred seasonal light begins, or mammals that den during certain stellar configurations and emerge to hunt during others. The oceans themselves would pulse to these complex seasonal rhythms. As the gravitational influence of the two suns waxed and waned, ocean currents might shift dramatically, creating marine seasons that don't correspond to terrestrial ones at all. There could be times when the seas are calm and predictable, and other periods when the competing gravitational pulls create turbulent, dynamic waters that support entirely different types of marine life. For human civilization in such a world, agriculture would require a sophistication that makes our current farming practices look simple by comparison. Farmers would need to understand not just soil and weather, but orbital mechanics and stellar positions. They might plant different crops for different seasonal phases, harvesting heat-loving plants during conjunction seasons and cool weather crops during the gentler transitional periods. Calendars would become works of art in themselves, 3-dimensional models that track not just days and months, but stellar positions, orbital phases, and the complex interplay of multiple seasonal cycles. Children might grow up learning to read the sky like a cosmic clock, understanding that spring isn't just a time of warming, but a specific configuration of celestial mechanics that creates particular conditions for growth and renewal. Architecture, too, would adapt to these complex seasonal patterns. Buildings might be designed with multiple orientations, capturing the optimal light and heat from whichever sun is dominant during different times of the orbital year. There could be rooms designed specifically for conjunction seasons, with special windows and light wells that manage the intense brightness, and other spaces optimized for the gentler, more diffused light of transitional periods. And in all of this complexity, there would be a deep and abiding beauty. The knowledge that seasons aren't just simple cycles of warm and cold, but intricate dances between world and stars. That the very air we breathe and the light that warms our faces are part of a cosmic conversation that's been playing out for billions of years. In a world where seasons follow the rhythm of binary stars, every harvest would be a celebration not just of growth, but of orbital mechanics. Every migration would be timed not just to temperature, but to the sublime choreography of twin suns dancing through space. And every change in the light, every shift in the quality of shadow and warmth, would be a reminder that we live not on a simple planet circling a simple star, but in a cosmic symphony where every note is played by the gravitational music of multiple worlds. It's a humbling and beautiful thought that even something as fundamental as the seasons could be reimagined, made more complex and more wonderful, if only the universe had chosen to light our world with the gentle fire of twin stars. In a world illuminated by two suns, life itself would have evolved along pathways we can barely imagine. Every leaf, every eye, every heartbeat would have been shaped by the complex rhythms of binary starlight. The very building blocks of existence, photosynthesis, circadian rhythms, the migration of species, would have adapted to a reality where light comes not as a single, predictable gift, but as an ongoing conversation between celestial partners. Let's begin with the plants, those quiet architects of our world who spend their days in patient conversation with sunlight. In our single-sun reality, most plants have evolved to track the movement of one star across the sky, turning their leaves and flowers to follow its path from east to west. But under twin stars, photosynthesis would become a more sophisticated dance. Imagine forests where every tree has learned to follow not one, but two moving light sources. Leaves might develop the ability to articulate in multiple directions simultaneously, with some surfaces tracking one sun while others orient toward its partner. The result would be canopies that shimmer and shift throughout the day, as billions of leaves adjust their positions in response to the complex choreography above. Some plants might evolve to specialize in different types of starlight. Perhaps there would be morning glory flowers that only bloom when the smaller, cooler sun is dominant, their petals perfectly tuned to capture the specific wavelengths of that particular star. Others might be conjunction bloomers, saving their energy for those spectacular periods when both suns shine together, using the combined intensity to fuel rapid growth and reproduction. The very chemistry of photosynthesis might have evolved differently. Plants might develop multiple pathways for converting light to energy, switching between them as the quality and intensity of available starlight changes throughout the orbital year. There could be leaves that are green when processing light from one sun and blue or purple when optimized for the other, creating forests that change color not just with seasons, but with the daily movement of twin stars across the sky. Animals, too, would have evolved exquisite adaptations to binary starlight. Eyes might be more sophisticated, capable of processing the complex visual information that comes from multiple light sources casting overlapping shadows and reflections. Some creatures might develop separate visual systems for each sun, with different types of photoreceptors optimized for different stellar spectra. Migration patterns would follow the complex celestial mechanics of a binary star system. Instead of our familiar north-south movements, animals might migrate in spirals or figure eights, following optimal combinations of temperature and light quality as the stars dance through their orbital cycles. There could be birds that time their journeys to coincide with specific stellar configurations, arriving at their destinations just as the light becomes perfect for nesting or feeding. Predator-prey relationships would be shaped by the complex interplay of light and shadow. Some hunters might specialize in the brief moments of true darkness when both suns are eclipsed by clouds or mountains. Others might have evolved to take advantage of the shadow confusion created when multiple light sources make it difficult for prey to judge distances and directions accurately. Sleep cycles would be particularly fascinating in a binary star system. Instead of our simple day-night rhythm, creatures might have evolved multiple sleep phases timed to different stellar configurations. There could be animals that take short naps when one sun sets but the other remains active, and longer rest periods during the rare times when both stars are below the horizon simultaneously. Some species might have evolved to be sun specialists, most active when their preferred star is dominant. Others might be conjunction creatures, emerging only during those spectacular periods when both suns shine together. And there could be twilight dwellers that thrive during the transitional periods when neither sun provides intense light but both contribute to the world's gentle illumination. The oceans would teem with life adapted to the complex tidal patterns created by twin gravitational sources. Marine creatures might have evolved internal clocks that track not just daily tides, but the longer, more complex cycles created by the orbital dance of binary stars. There could be fish that spawn only during specific stellar configurations, and others that migrate vast distances to follow optimal combinations of water temperature and tidal conditions. Coral reefs might be even more spectacular in a binary star system, with organisms that have evolved to capture and utilize multiple types of stellar radiation. Some corals might change color throughout the day as they optimize their photosynthetic partners for different qualities of starlight. Others might have developed elaborate timing mechanisms, extending their polyps to feed during the optimal light conditions created by specific stellar positions. Plant pollination would be a marvel of temporal precision. Flowers might open and close not just in response to one sun's position, but to the complex interplay between both stars. There could be blossoms that only open when both suns are shining, creating brief windows of opportunity for pollinators. Others might time their cycles to the long orbital periods, blooming once every few years when stellar conditions create the perfect environment for reproduction. Speaking of pollinators, insects in a binary star system might have evolved the most sophisticated navigation systems in the natural world. Instead of using a single sun as a compass, they might triangulate their position using both stars, creating mental maps of unprecedented complexity. Some might be active only when their preferred star is visible, while others have learned to navigate using the constantly shifting patterns of shadow and light created by twin stars. Nocturnal creatures would face their own unique challenges and opportunities. True night, when both suns are below the horizon, might be rare and brief, creating intense competition for those dark time hours. But there would also be extended periods of gentle twilight, lit by one sun while the other rests below the horizon, creating opportunities for creatures that thrive in soft, indirect light. Birds might develop songs that change with the stellar conditions, perhaps using different calls when different suns are dominant. Some species might even have evolved to sing duets that mirror the binary nature of their stellar environment, with pairs creating harmonies that reflect the cosmic dance happening above their heads. The very metabolism of life might run differently under binary stars. Creatures might have evolved more efficient energy storage systems to take advantage of the varying intensities of stellar radiation. Some animals might store energy during the bright conjunction periods and use it during the gentler phases, creating internal rhythms that pulse to the beat of orbital mechanics. And perhaps most beautifully, in a world where light itself comes as a conversation between stars, life might have evolved a deeper appreciation for collaboration and harmony. Every ecosystem would be a testament to the idea that complexity can create not chaos, but beauty, that when multiple forces work together, the result can be richer and more wonderful than any single element alone. In this imagined world, every sunrise would be a reminder that life is infinitely adaptable, infinitely creative, and infinitely more beautiful when it learns to dance with whatever music the universe chooses to play. In a world lit by two suns, human civilization would have grown from the very beginning around the rhythms of binary starlight. Our myths, our art, our understanding of time itself would all be woven from the complex patterns of twin stars dancing across the sky. Everything we consider fundamental about human culture, from our earliest creation stories to our most sophisticated technologies, would have been shaped by the daily miracle of double sunrise and the intricate seasonal patterns of a binary star system. Let's begin with the most human of all endeavors, storytelling. In our single-sun world, many of our oldest myths speak of the sun as a singular deity, a lone hero making a daily journey across the sky. But in a binary star system, humanity's earliest stories might have been love stories, tales of two stellar companions who dance eternally through the heavens, sometimes drawing close in celestial embrace, sometimes separated by cosmic distances, but always faithful to their shared orbit. These mythologies might speak of the stars as siblings, lovers, or eternal friends, their changing relationships reflected in the shifting patterns of light and season on Earth below. There could be legends about why one sun is larger than the other, stories of jealousy and reconciliation that explain the complex orbital mechanics in human terms of emotion and relationship. Religious practices would be beautifully complex in such a world. Instead of prayers timed to a single sunrise, different cultures might have developed rituals for first light and second light, or ceremonies that celebrate the rare moments when both suns shine together. There could be festivals of solar opposition when the suns appear on opposite sides of the sky, and pilgrimages timed to the long orbital cycles when stellar configurations create particularly sacred patterns of light. Architecture, too, would tell the story of a civilization adapted to binary starlight. Ancient temples might have multiple orientations, with different chambers designed to capture light from each sun at specific times of day or season. There could be buildings with intricate light wells and mirror systems designed to blend and separate the illumination from twin stars, creating interior spaces that shift and change throughout the day like living sculptures. Cities themselves might be laid out according to the complex geometry of binary shadows. Streets could be oriented not just to cardinal directions, but to the optimal angles for capturing specific combinations of starlight during different orbital phases. There might be public squares designed for the spectacular light shows that occur when both suns are at their peak, and quiet gardens optimized for the gentle twilight periods when one star rests while the other provides soft illumination. The measurement of time would be an art form in itself. Instead of our simple 24-hour days, people might track stellar hours, periods defined by the relative positions of both suns. There could be unity hours when both suns shine together, transition hours when one sun is setting while the other remains active, and the rare rest hours when both stars are below the horizon. Calendars would be three-dimensional masterpieces, tracking not just days and months but the complex interactions between multiple orbital cycles. Children might learn to read time from the sky itself, understanding that knowing the hour isn't just about looking at a clock, but about reading the celestial choreography of twin stars. Art would be transformed by the complex interplay of light and shadow. Painters might develop techniques for capturing the layered illumination that comes from multiple light sources. Sculptures could be designed to tell different stories depending on which sun is dominant, casting entirely different shadow patterns as the stellar configuration changes throughout the day. Music might echo the binary nature of the heavens themselves. Composers could develop symphonies that mirror the harmony and counterpoint of twin stars, with melodies that weave together and separate like celestial partners dancing through space. There might be instruments designed to be played in the acoustic conditions created by different stellar configurations, taking advantage of how the complex heating and cooling patterns affect air density and sound transmission. Agriculture would require a sophistication that makes our current farming practices look simple by comparison. Farmers would need to be part-time astronomers, understanding not just soil and weather but orbital mechanics and stellar positions. Different crops might be planted for different stellar seasons, with harvests timed to the complex rhythms of binary starlight. There could be grains that grow best during the intense conjunction periods, and others that prefer the gentler light of transitional phases. Fruit trees might be bred to bloom when specific stellar configurations create optimal pollination conditions. Winemaking might become even more complex, with vintages defined not just by yearly weather patterns but by the particular quality of starlight during different orbital phases. Navigation would be both more challenging and more precise in a binary star system. Sailors and travelers might develop incredibly sophisticated methods for determining position and direction using the relative positions of twin stars. There could be navigation techniques that use the complex shadow patterns created by binary starlight, or methods that take advantage of the way different stellar configurations affect atmospheric conditions and visibility. Education would naturally center around understanding the cosmic environment that shapes daily life. Children might learn astronomy as early as they learn to read, developing intuitive understanding of orbital mechanics and stellar relationships. There could be schools with observatories, where students track the movements of their twin suns as part of their basic education. Philosophy and science would grapple with questions that never arise in a single sun system. What does it mean for a world to have two centers of light and energy? How does the mind process reality when even shadows tell complex stories? There might be entire philosophical schools devoted to understanding the implications of living in a fundamentally binary universe. Medicine might take into account the complex biological rhythms created by binary starlight. Doctors could track how different stellar configurations affect sleep patterns, mood, and physical health. There might be therapeutic practices that take advantage of specific types of starlight, with healing centers designed to optimize particular stellar conditions for recovery and wellness. And in quiet moments, when the work of civilization pauses and people simply stand beneath their twin suns, there would be a constant reminder of something profound, that the universe chose to give them not one source of light, but two. That complexity and beauty go hand in hand, that harmony can arise from multiplicity, and that even the most fundamental aspects of existence, light, warmth, the passage of time, are far more nuanced and wonderful than they might first appear. In a world lit by binary stars, every sunset would be a reminder that cooperation creates beauty, every sunrise would be a lesson in celestial choreography, and every shadow would tell the story of not one sun, but two, eternal partners dancing through space, lighting a world that learned long ago to find patterns in complexity and meaning in the cosmic dance above. As we drift toward the end of our journey through this imagined world of twin suns, let's take a moment to step back and appreciate the profound gentleness of such a universe. In a cosmos where binary star systems are actually quite common, where many of the points of light we see in our night sky are actually stellar couples dancing together through space, there's something deeply comforting about imagining Earth as part of such a partnership. The universe we've explored tonight isn't one of harsh contrasts or dramatic extremes, but rather a world of layered light and nuanced shadows, where the rhythms of existence pulse to the heartbeat of two stars instead of one. It's a reality where cooperation isn't just a nice ideal, but the fundamental organizing principle of the heavens themselves. In our binary star system, there would be no lonely sun making its solitary journey across the sky. Instead, our days would unfold under the gentle influence of celestial partners who have been dancing together for billions of years, each bringing its own gifts of light and warmth to the world below. Sometimes they would shine together in brilliant harmony, and sometimes they would take turns, ensuring that the world is never left entirely in darkness. This is perhaps the most beautiful lesson of our imagined binary Earth, that even the most fundamental forces of nature, gravity, light, the very energy that powers life itself, can arise from collaboration rather than solitary effort. The seasons wouldn't march to the rhythm of a single stellar drummer, but would flow from the complex interplay between partners who have learned to work together across the vast scales of space and time. Life in such a world would be a testament to adaptability and cooperation. Every leaf that learned to track two suns instead of one, every animal that evolved to navigate by twin stars, every human civilization that developed calendars for binary seasons would be living proof that complexity doesn't mean chaos, it means more opportunities for beauty, more pathways to wonder, more reasons to look up at the sky with gratitude. And in quiet moments, when both suns hang in the western sky like golden companions preparing for their nightly rest, the people of such a world might pause in their daily activities to appreciate the simple miracle of their binary heritage. They would know, in a way that we can only imagine, what it means to live in a universe that chose to give them not one source of light, but two. There's something profound about that thought, that the cosmos is vast enough and generous enough to light worlds not just with single stars, but with stellar partnerships that have been perfecting their dance for eons. It suggests a universe that values collaboration over competition, harmony over dominance, the gentle complexity that arises when multiple forces learn to work together rather than against each other. Even their nighttime sky would tell this story. While we look up at thousands of individual points of light, the people of a binary world might see their night sky as a vast community of partnerships, countless pairs of stars engaged in their own eternal dances, each one a reminder that the universe tends toward companionship rather than solitude. And perhaps that's the most comforting thought of all, that in a cosmos where binary stars are common, where planets can orbit twin suns and life can flourish under the light of stellar partners, our own sense of connection and cooperation isn't just a human invention. It might be a reflection of something fundamental about the universe itself, a tendency toward harmony, partnership, and the kind of beauty that can only arise when separate forces learn to dance together. In this imagined world, every sunrise would be a reminder that we live in a universe that chose collaboration. Every shadow would tell the story of light that comes not from a single source, but from the patient partnership of celestial companions. And every season would unfold according to the ancient choreography of stars that have been dancing together since before the first molecule of life stirred in ancient seas. So as you drift toward sleep tonight, dear stargazer, perhaps you can imagine for a moment what it would be like to live under such gentle, binary light. To wake each morning not to a single sunrise, but to the patient dance of stellar partners who have been lighting worlds together for billions of years. To fall asleep knowing that even in the vastness of space, cooperation and companionship are woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. Whether our own Earth orbits one star or could have orbited two, there's comfort in knowing that the universe is vast enough for both possibilities, patient enough for either arrangement, and beautiful enough to make either choice a reason for wonder. In the end, whether lit by one sun or two, every world is a reminder that we live in a cosmos where light finds a way, life finds a way, and beauty finds a way to emerge from even the most complex dances between gravity and time and the patient fire of distant stars. But let's delve deeper into this world of binary illumination, for there are layers upon layers we've only begun to explore. Consider, for instance, how the weather itself would be transformed in a world lit by two suns. Our familiar patterns of heating and cooling, the formation of clouds, the very movement of air masses across the planet, all of this would be orchestrated by the complex interplay of twin stellar influences. During periods when both suns shine from different angles, we might witness atmospheric phenomena that don't exist in our single sun world. Imagine clouds that form not in simple patterns, but in complex spirals and bands, shaped by competing thermal columns rising from surfaces heated by different stellar sources. There could be winds that blow in directions that seem to defy logic, until you remember that they're responding not to one source of heat, but to the intricate dance of temperature gradients created by binary starlight. Rain itself might fall in patterns that tell the story of which sun was dominant when the clouds formed. Some storms might be conjunction storms, born from the intense heating that occurs when both suns shine together, creating weather systems of extraordinary power and beauty. Others could be gentle transition rains, falling softly during those peaceful periods when one sun is setting while the other continues to provide warmth, creating the perfect conditions for slow, soaking precipitation that nourishes without violence. The very concept of a weather forecast would need to be reimagined. Meteorologists would need to be astronomers as well, tracking not just atmospheric conditions but stellar positions and orbital mechanics. A typical weather report might sound like this: tomorrow we'll see gentle warming as the primary sun rises in the east, followed by intense heating around midday when both stars reach maximum elevation. Expect conjunction winds from the southeast and possible thermal storms in the late afternoon as the secondary sun begins its descent while the primary remains high. Evening will bring transitional cooling with possible aurora activity as stellar radiation interacts with our magnetosphere from multiple angles. Speaking of aurora, imagine how the northern and southern lights might appear in a world with two suns. Instead of the familiar green curtains and dancing ribbons we know, there could be aurora displays that pulse and shift in complex patterns, responding to stellar radiation from multiple sources. There might be times when the aurora appears not just at the poles, but in great bands across the middle latitudes, as charged particles from two stars interact with our planet's magnetic field in ways that create light shows of unprecedented complexity and beauty. The oceans, too, would tell stories we can barely comprehend. Beyond the complex tidal patterns we've already imagined, there would be thermal currents shaped by the differential heating from twin suns. Great oceanic conveyor belts might shift and change as the relative positions of the stars alter the patterns of surface warming. There could be seasons when ocean currents flow in one direction, and other periods when they reverse entirely, following the gravitational and thermal guidance of whichever stellar partner is dominant. Marine weather systems, hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones, would follow rules that don't exist in our single-sun world. Some storms might be binary hurricanes, formed when the complex heating patterns create multiple centers of low pressure that spiral around each other like oceanic dancers. Others could be stellar opposition storms, born when the competing influences of suns on opposite sides of the sky create conditions of extraordinary atmospheric instability. The very chemistry of our atmosphere might be different in a binary star system. With varying intensities and possibly different spectral qualities of light from two stars, the photochemical reactions that create and destroy atmospheric compounds would follow more complex pathways. The ozone layer, that invisible shield that protects life from harmful radiation, might form in different patterns, perhaps thicker during certain stellar configurations and thinner during others. This would create its own seasonal rhythms of protection and vulnerability, adding another layer to the complex dance of survival under twin stars. Plant life would have evolved even more sophisticated strategies than we've already imagined. Consider the possibility of chromatic seasons, periods when the different spectral qualities of the two suns favor different types of photosynthesis. There might be plants that literally change color throughout the orbital year, not just from green to brown as in our autumn, but shifting through entire spectrums as they optimize their light-harvesting molecules for whichever stellar frequency is most available. Forests might look like living rainbows, with trees that are green when processing light from one sun, red when optimized for the other, and perhaps brilliant gold during those magical conjunction periods when both stars shine together. Some plants might have evolved temporal specialization so precise that they're only active for a few weeks each orbital year, timing their entire life cycle to incredibly specific stellar configurations. There could be conjunction flowers that bloom only when both suns are at their peak, living their entire lives in a burst of activity during those brief periods of maximum illumination. Others might be opposition specialists, thriving during those rare times when the competing gravitational influences create unique soil and atmospheric conditions. The pollination strategies alone would be marvels of evolutionary engineering. Insects might have evolved not just to navigate by twin suns, but to synchronize their life cycles with multiple overlapping stellar rhythms. There could be butterflies that migrate not just geographically, but temporally, timing their movements to follow optimal light conditions as they shift across the planet with the complex dance of binary stars. Some might even have evolved partnership behaviors that mirror their stellar environment, pairs of insects that work together to navigate and pollinate, each member of the team specialized for different stellar conditions. Underground ecosystems would have their own fascinating adaptations. While we often think of subterranean life as disconnected from solar influences, in a binary star system, the complex heating and cooling patterns would create temperature variations in the soil that could support entirely different types of underground ecology. There might be root systems that migrate seasonally through the soil, following thermal gradients created by the varying influence of twin suns above. Cave systems could experience thermal seasons, with some chambers warming and cooling in patterns that support different types of life at different times of the orbital year. Animal behavior would showcase adaptations that stretch our understanding of biological possibility. Consider hibernation, for instance. In our world, many animals hibernate during the cold months, slowing their metabolism to survive winter. But in a binary star system, there might be creatures that hibernate during specific stellar configurations, not necessarily cold periods, but times when the particular combination of light and heat creates conditions that favor dormancy over activity. Some animals might have evolved a light hibernation, becoming dormant during the intensely bright conjunction periods to avoid overheating, emerging during the gentler transitional phases to feed and reproduce. Social structures among animals might reflect the binary nature of their environment. There could be species that organize themselves in pairs, not just mating pairs, but partnerships that allow them to take advantage of different stellar conditions. One member of the partnership might be optimized for bright light conditions while the other thrives in dimmer circumstances, allowing them to remain active throughout the complex light cycles of their world. Bird migration might involve not just seasonal movement, but stellar migration, species that move not just from place to place, but from one type of light environment to another as stellar conditions change. There could be birds that follow the solar opposition around the globe, always staying in regions where one sun is rising while the other sets, living in a perpetual state of perfect twilight. Others might chase the conjunction, following the periods of maximum brightness as they move across the planet with the orbital dance of twin stars. The development of flight itself might have taken different paths in a binary star system. With more complex thermal patterns creating varied updrafts and wind currents, flying creatures might have evolved more sophisticated flight strategies. There could be birds that use thermal surfing, riding the complex air currents created by differential heating from twin suns. Others might have developed shadow flight, using the cooler air in the mobile shadows created by binary starlight to travel efficiently across long distances. Even more fascinating would be the evolution of echolocation and other sensory systems in a world where visual navigation is complicated by multiple light sources and shifting shadows. Bats and dolphins might have developed even more refined acoustic abilities, creating detailed sonic maps of their environment that don't depend on the complex and ever-changing visual landscape of binary illumination. Some creatures might have evolved entirely new sensory systems that we can barely imagine, perhaps the ability to sense electromagnetic fields created by the interaction of twin stellar winds, or organs that can detect the subtle gravitational variations created by the complex orbital mechanics of a binary star system. The fossil record of such a world would tell stories that paleontologists in our single-sun reality could never expect to find. There might be evidence of mass migrations timed not to ice ages or climate changes, but to long-period stellar cycles. Extinction events might correlate not with asteroid impacts or volcanic activity, but with periods when the orbital mechanics created particularly challenging stellar configurations. There could be evolutionary radiations, periods when life diversified rapidly, that coincide with times when favorable stellar arrangements created new ecological opportunities. The very concept of geological time would need expansion to include astronomical cycles. Rock layers might preserve not just evidence of ancient climates and ecosystems, but records of stellar positions and orbital configurations stretching back millions of years. Scientists might be able to read the stones like a book, seeing not just how life evolved, but how it adapted to the slowly changing dance of binary stars across deep time. Deep ocean ecosystems would showcase perhaps the most exotic adaptations of all. In our world, deep-sea creatures live in perpetual darkness, relying on chemosynthesis and the occasional marine snow of organic material from above. But in a binary star system, the complex tidal patterns and thermal currents might create deep ocean environments with their own unique rhythms of chemistry and energy flow. There could be deep-sea creatures that time their reproductive cycles to the long-period tidal effects created by specific stellar configurations, or organisms that have evolved to harvest energy from the unique chemical gradients created by binary-influenced ocean mixing. Hydrothermal vents might be more active and variable in a binary star system, with the complex gravitational influences creating more dynamic geological activity. The exotic chemistries that support vent ecosystems might vary in ways that allow for even more diverse forms of life, perhaps including organisms that can process multiple types of chemical energy depending on which stellar-influenced geological processes are most active. But perhaps the most profound difference would be in the development of consciousness itself. In a world where the very environment pulses to complex rhythms, where light and shadow, heat and cold, even gravity and time follow intricate patterns that require sophisticated understanding to navigate, intelligence might have evolved along different pathways. The brains of binary world creatures might be fundamentally different from ours, developed not just to process sequential information, but to think in overlapping cycles and complex harmonies. Language itself might reflect this complexity. Instead of linear grammar structures, binary world intelligent beings might communicate in linguistic patterns that mirror the overlapping cycles of their environment. Their languages might have temporal dimensions we can't even imagine, with meanings that change based on stellar configurations, or communication systems that require understanding of multiple simultaneous patterns to convey complete thoughts. Mathematics would necessarily be more sophisticated in such a world. While we developed our mathematical systems around base 10 counting and geometric concepts derived from our single-sun environment, creatures that evolved under binary stars might think naturally in terms of complex orbits, overlapping cycles, and multidimensional harmonies. Their mathematics might include concepts that we would find incredibly advanced, but which for them would be as natural as counting on fingers. The exploration of space would take on different meanings for a civilization that grew up under binary stars. While we look up at the night sky and see individual points of light, they might perceive patterns and relationships that escape us entirely. Their astronomy might be fundamentally more advanced, not because they're more intelligent, but because their environment has taught them from birth to think in terms of complex gravitational relationships and orbital mechanics. Their understanding of physics might include insights into multi-body problems and gravitational resonance that we're only beginning to discover. When such a civilization finally developed the technology to leave their world and explore the cosmos, they might find single-star systems like ours to be oddly simple, almost primitive in their straightforward orbital mechanics. They might look at our Earth and wonder how life could have evolved under such simple conditions, just as we might wonder how life could cope with the complexity of binary illumination. The art and music of such a civilization would reflect the fundamental rhythms of their world. Their symphonies might be built not on simple time signatures, but on complex overlapping cycles that mirror the orbital mechanics of their twin suns. Their visual arts might use color and light in ways that we find disorienting, because they would have grown up seeing the world painted not with single light sources, but with the complex interplay of binary illumination. Architecture would be not just functional, but temporal, buildings designed to tell different stories at different times of the orbital year, structures that serve different purposes as stellar configurations change. Their cities might be living calendars, readable by anyone who understands the language of light and shadow in a binary star system. And in their quiet moments, when the work of civilization pauses and they stand beneath their twin suns, they would know something that we can only imagine: what it means to live in a universe that chose complexity over simplicity, harmony over dominance, the patient dance of partnership over the lonely journey of isolation. They would understand, in ways that go deeper than words, that cooperation isn't just a good idea, it's the fundamental organizing principle of the cosmos itself. As we near the end of our journey through this imagined reality, it's worth reflecting on what such a world teaches us about our own. We live under a single sun, yes, but we are not alone in the cosmic dance. Our Earth orbits with 7 planetary siblings, our Sun moves through space as part of a galaxy of hundreds of billions of stars, and that galaxy itself dances with countless others in an ever-expanding universe. The patterns of cooperation and harmony that we've imagined in a binary star system are not alien to our reality, they're simply playing out on scales so vast that we sometimes forget to notice them. Every sunrise in our single-sun world is still a miracle of cosmic choreography. Every season still tells the story of our planet's relationship with its stellar partner. Every tide still whispers of gravitational forces that connect us to celestial bodies we can barely see. The difference is perhaps not in the complexity, but in the timescales. Where our imagined binary world would show its cosmic dance on daily and seasonal rhythms, our reality reveals its patterns across years, centuries, and eons. But the dance is still there, still beautiful, still worthy of wonder. In the end, whether lit by one star or two, every world is a reminder that we participate in something far grander than our individual lives. We are notes in a cosmic symphony that has been playing for billions of years, movements in a dance that connects us to every other particle of matter in an ever-expanding universe. The light that warms our faces each morning has traveled across 93 million miles of space, carrying with it the nuclear fire of stellar fusion, the same process that forges the heavy elements in our bodies and powers the chemistry of life itself. Good night, fellow traveler among the stars. May your dreams be lit by gentle starlight, whether single or paired, and may you wake tomorrow with a renewed sense of wonder at the infinite possibilities that dance through the cosmic dark. If you've enjoyed this quiet journey through an imagined world of twin suns, I'd be grateful if you'd let me know by leaving a like, and perhaps consider subscribing for more thoughtful wanderings through the mysteries of space. And once more, I'm curious, where in this wide world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it in your corner of our single-sun reality? Until we meet again under these stars or others, sleep well, dream gently, and remember that whether our world is lit by one star or two, we are all part of the same vast, beautiful, ever-dancing cosmos.